Welcome everybody to the Big Bacon Theory of Image and Marketing presentation. We are Exploding Bacon, winners of the World Championship Cayman Family Imagery Award. I'm Jess. I am a senior. I'm on the business and marketing team, and I am Hall of Fame lead. And I have with me.
Hi, I'm Matthew. I am also a senior. I am imagery lead, and I am an alumnus of FLL Team 3420.
Hello, I am Sam. I am a sophomore, and I'm a mechanical student.
Okay. And as Crystal said, after the presentation, there will be time for questions and answers. And if we run out of time, we would be happy to answer any questions through our email or through the team website, explodingbacon.com. So these are the topics we'll be covering. We'll begin with how to find what your team's specific brand is, and then we'll move on to how to apply it to different aspects of your team. So why is your image important? You have to know who you are before others know who you are. Define your message. An image is nothing if not consistent, and a clear image will help you cater to your target audience. A clear identity will also help you market to sponsors, judges, teams, and your community. So why are you here? To develop a new team brand, to update or learn how to document your existing brand, or to rebrand your team's identity. No matter what step of team branding you're on, this presentation can help you refine your team's image.
Let's get started. Imagery is about more than your colors and logo. It is everything you do. Your image should reflect your team. Some teams are more professional, others are wild and crazy. Some are from schools, others may be 4-H, Boy Scout or Girl Scout teams as well. A team image is about embracing who you are and presenting that consistently in everything you do. And even a small change can give you a better sense of who you are and who you're trying to be. A mission statement is a great place to start. It's important to set aside some time to have a conversation about your team's identity with every member involved. We have a strategic planning meeting every summer, where we review what is working and what is not and set goals for the future. Our first year, we just focused on brainstorming ways to improve all aspects of our team. This is an example of a strategic planning worksheet. And there are more resources available at our website and other places online. Research some techniques and don't try to get it all done in a couple of hours. Success is about learning and adapting. Ask questions, talk about what is working for you and what is not, and look at interesting things others are doing. You can collect examples from other teams' websites or even the company that has your favorite image. Overall, be patient. Their brands weren't built in a day, and it's okay if yours isn't either. Identify your audience or communities. Map them out. Who do you serve? Whose attention are you trying to capture? At the very beginning, we learned that a critical element of a first team is the team shirt. We thought we were being creative and clever with a different shirt for each day of competition, but nobody knew who we were by Saturday. Regionals, and especially Worlds, are incredibly busy times, and people need easy ways to identify you. You want to make sure that teams, judges, or visiting friends can easily find your team without getting confused.
So let's talk a bit about your brand. The main components of your brand are your team's logo, tagline, and a quick and easy team message. We can call this an elevator speech. An elevator speech is a couple of sentences that sum up your team and can be said in the time it takes to ride an elevator. As you develop these components, reach out to your team and encourage everyone to give input. Someone may have a special talent to help, such as insane drawing skills or other things. The important thing is to let your team's personality shine in every aspect of your brand. Once you know who you are, you want to document it. Here's an example of an image inventory. You should record things like the maximum and minimum size of your logo, how you use it on dark backgrounds, what colors get inverted or not, and other do's and don'ts necessary to remain consistent year to year. These details should be filed where it can be easily accessed by all members, even if leadership changes. FRC teams 1868 Space Cookies, 254 The Cheesy Poos, and 4118 Roaring Riptide have a great branding document available on their website. Another great model is the FIRST branding guidelines. You should be familiar with how to use their logos and branding elements properly, and they give you thorough examples of how to integrate their logo with game elements year to year. You can find this on the FIRST website. Once you develop your brand, it's time to utilize that branding to market your team and build relationships. Your newfound image should be reflected on everything you create. Remember, your image is important because you want to be recognized and remembered. Your image will help your community know who you are and recognize you at outreach and demos. Your two main audiences can be simply broken down to within FIRST and outside of FIRST. So let's start within FIRST and then break that down just a little further to judges, other teams, and the FIRST community at large.
For judges, it can be helpful to create a packet that you can hand out, something light with all of the relevant information about your team in one place. This helps you take control of your image and highlight the accomplishments of your team to the judges. Students can also pull out the judges packet and point out a few highlights about something a judge is particularly interested in learning more about. That can involve things like articles, marketing letters, or award submissions, such as the Chairman's and Entrepreneurship Award. Visuals are a fun way to engage your audience, but remember that they're only a supplement. They should be neat and only include the most important information in large letters so it's easy to read from where your audience is. Pictures are a great way to get your point across, and if you add a theme to your materials, they're more likely to be remembered. A robot tech finder or another handout to share with robot judges can help them remember your robot strengths later. More than anything, it's important to train every member of the team to speak to judges, especially if they're going to be present in your pit. Everyone should be prepared so that they're confident when they have to speak. You can also have team trivia games and team Q&A practice sessions. Find out what's best for your team, but always practice, practice, practice. Get your team excited about branding. Your kids will embrace an image that they've created themselves. Be unique. Bright colors are eye-catching, and you can include fun Lego accessories. Keep in mind, however, that it's easier to remember simpler designs, and less colors also means less money spent on shirts. Implementing a dress code will ensure that everyone is safer and more easily recognizable as a member of your team. Your team isn't going to be able to be everywhere at once. Try to find an area where you excel or you're comfortable and stick with it. You may be reliant on a particular sponsor or organization, and that's okay. Creating strong connections where you are will ensure that your team will thrive there. Being memorable to other teams can also benefit your team in many ways, including during alliance selections. Luckily, there are many tools you can use to help spread your image to other teams and help them remember you. Robot cards are an example of this, and also other giveaways.
Creating buttons to share is another great way to market your team to other teams. You'll know you achieved successful marketing when they can easily pick you out of a crowd. Showing your enthusiasm in the stands with a contagious spirit will give your team greater visibility. Oink, oink, boom. Developing a cheer is a great way to connect with others, and it's fun to learn to cheer on other teams.
Keep in mind, your pit is an extension of your team's image. Is yours easily identifiable? Make it easy for judges, your sponsors, and other teams to locate you. It does not have to be fancy. One FRC team in South Florida has a giant pink flamingo on top of their pit. It's very memorable and easy to find. So embrace your image. As you know, ours has something to do with pigs. You will know that you've successfully marketed it when others embrace it. Fun giveaways can also spread your image past your team boundaries. Think about unique giveaways that would work with your image well. Your image extends beyond the boundaries of competitions and should be upheld with the same awareness year-round. The online FIRST community offers lots of chances to make new connections with teams such as FLL, share, and learn on Facebook. You can also pursue outreaches and opportunities to do demos for FIRST at conferences and events. A clear identity can help your members better represent you and FIRST online.
Moving on to marketing outside FIRST. There are many benefits to getting out into the community. Having a good image is the key to becoming a recognizable and respected part of your community. It attracts the attention of potential sponsors and members, and more connections mean more opportunities to professionally represent your team in your community. Getting your team into the world, helping out your community is an excellent way to make connections and build relationships. Marketing with sponsors means being prepared. Have a marketing packet, include pictures of the team and your robot. At the very least, have a business card to hand off and always try to get a business card in exchange. People are busy and you want to be able to follow up with those leads.
Moving on to social media. This is the global voice of your team and can be in a fun way to engage new audiences. Identify your audiences and then choose the social media platform that works best to help spread your message to those people. Create goals and objectives for each platform and make a plan to do them well. You may want to assign individuals to be in charge of creating content, be a student, a mentor, or you can form a social media sub-team. Studies show that posts with images or videos are more engaging than just words. Research the best way to succeed in the platforms you decide to tackle. There are recommendations available in numerous articles for the posting frequency and the approach for whatever you choose. For each site, create banners and badges that reflect your team's image, colors, logos, a robot, or smiling faces. Make sure you stick to your predefined image. Once you create your social media, stay active. Post about the events you volunteer and compete at frequently. You can schedule the release of posts, which will help you post consistently. Another way to be active is to build relationships with other teams by liking and commenting on their posts. Don't be afraid to start a conversation.
Always remember, spelling and grammar matter. Improper spelling and grammar reflects poorly on your team. Your social media lead, or whoever you appoint to run your account, should have experience on those platforms and take their role seriously. Get your members to follow and share your social media. This will help you build followers and reach a broader audience. It's best to have multiple adults serve as admins in order to spread account responsibility and ensure that the account stays with the team even when a mentor moves on. Remember that on the internet, trends are constantly changing. Try to take advantage of as many of them as you can, but don't stretch yourself too thin. All in all, experiment to find out what works best for your team. They say a picture is worth 1,000 words, and a video is 24 pictures per second and can convey an important message. In your videos, be short and to the point and plan where you will share them. Edit out mistakes and make sure they positively represent your team. Include your team's information in every video you make so it's easily traced back to you.
The goal of any program is to make an impact, and that is much easier to do if your program has a recognizable brand. Maybe you are already doing something really great, and a bit of rebranding can make a bigger impact. Consider the same components you do for your team: mission statement, keywords, and logo. For example, First Like a Girl is a program we started in 2016, and it has its own logo and branding guidelines separate from Exploding Bacons. See how certain letters are capitalized and there are 2 different fonts? These are some of the things our team decided to keep consistent in every representation of First Like a Girl, and an example of the type of conversations you should have about your program's brand.
To recap, how does Imagery benefit you? It helps you to become more memorable, communicate your message, fundraise, recruit, and just leave a good impression. So now you've established your brand. From here on out, it's your responsibility to always uphold it and enact accordance with your identity. And don't forget, gracious professionalism is a key component with your image.
Okay. Before we open it up to Q&A really quickly, we would greatly appreciate if you take time to complete a quick survey on our website, explodingbacon.com, and let us know if you found this helpful and how we can alter it to better meet the needs of teams in the future. So, question time.
Okay, I'll start. How did you guys come up with the pig on the rocket?
So the pig on a rocket, our team came up with that image. So we were having a sort of brainstorming for what our logo would be. And there was a random name generator. And the two things that came out of the random name generator were exploding bacon and organized chaos. And the team wanted to go with organized chaos until one of the team members just sketched out the logo of the pig on a rocket on a nearby napkin, and everyone fell in love with it, so we chose that one instead.
Okay, so some of, oh,
go ahead.
I was going to say, some of the stuff that you mentioned was a lot of FIRST Robotics Competition geared scenarios. How can our FIRST LEGO League teams utilize some of the stuff that you put in your presentation?
So speaking from my experiences with FOL is like, I'm imagery lead of Exploding Bacon right now, but really the basis that got me to that point was the graphics design related work I did on my FLL team. So I was on the team for 2 years during my 7th and 8th grade year. Both years we different logos. So I use some software, but students on FLL teams can also use they can just draw a logo. And it's a great experience. It's also something I noticed at competitions today that doesn't even feel as common in competitions 5 years ago is everybody seems to have a consistent image where it is on everything. There are a number of teams where everybody's wearing the same shirt. And I feel that is really important and echoed here. And then also with program logos, I was able to create some of those as well.
Awesome. Well, with this year being with COVID and unfamiliar territories, a lot of our teams are probably going to go to more of a remote type virtual championships and qualifiers and festivals. How would you recommend them moving forward on using their logo or their new identity in that process?
So there are really two different scenarios I would imagine for a team to be operating remotely. The first one is where they're able to all come together or pre-record videos of themselves, and that's where they would all be standing together or standing in their houses with somebody recording them separately. And that's the kind of situation where we want to use the same team shirt and keep the same team uniform. But also something that may be worth considering is if you're in a Zoom call format like this, part of 1902's uniform is to be wearing black jeans. You'll see everybody on 1902 wearing black jeans when they're wearing their Exploding Bacon shirts. So really you have to consider the upper body a bit more because you're only seeing part of this logo that is on my shirt. So maybe invest in hats. Find some way to take advantage of the fact that not all of your body is showing, so you have the upper half and maybe add some sort of element there.
And as Matthew said with the Zoom call, there are going to be a lot more opportunities to participate in things like this in the online setting. And we did mention in the presentation, there was an FLL group on Facebook where you could share some of the things that you're trying to do from home. So, and you can start your social media for your team and experiment with that now that you have time and now that everyone's on social media and you have that opportunity?
Yeah, absolutely. Another thing that I didn't mention before that is actually another example of free real estate is you'll notice for the people who are able to who have the bandwidth on their internet to be able to handle adding a Zoom background, right behind me and right behind Sam, it is quite literally free real estate that would be otherwise. Oh, Jess just left. I think she's gonna do something. I'm not sure, but it's free real estate that would otherwise be used up by what is behind me, my bedroom, what is behind Sam,
My bad.
his bedroom. So being able to put the oink oink boom behind me, the logo behind me is just another example of how we were able to extend our brand for Zoom.
Yeah, I think that's really cool. Unfortunately, if I wear my hat, sometimes that doesn't work quite right.
Yeah.
I was going to ask how you guys made your Zoom backgrounds. I mean, I can think of Canva, but I just wanted to check in and see if you guys used something different.
So this could probably be done using Canva because like from my perspective, this is a relatively simple thing to do because we already have the images for our logo done. This is honestly, to be completely honest, I did this an hour ago. I was thinking, okay, we're doing an imagery presentation. Let's make the imagery more consistent and let's make some Zoom backgrounds. So I use a software called Affinity Designer. It is very similar to Adobe Illustrator. The only difference is it is a single time payment software. So Adobe Illustrator would absolutely work for this as well, and really Photoshop too, because this isn't vector-based artwork. So it's really just, it is an image and then the text next to it, and that's all it took. And taking advantage, the real key to these backgrounds, it isn't that we have our logo per se, and that having a logo and oink oink boom are super important, but also the background colors, because the colors we like to use are orange and green, and then additionally we like to use white as well. So just the bold colors also are what help these backgrounds stand out.
Someone said in chat, Inkspace is also another place to do that, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, there's many softwares online that you can use that are free, that are also vector-based. So.
Yeah, so Inkscape is an example. There's also, yeah, so Inkscape is another example of a vector software. So the way that works is basically a bunch of paths. There are also other softwares that use pixels, which are literally just, it's basically a massive grid says, this cell is this color, this cell is this color. GIMP would be potentially an easier to use alternative for that if you don't need to use vector related stuff. It really depends on your needs. When I was in FLL, I was fully on basically the type of system GIMP uses, so it was with Photoshop. And then it was only once I got to FRC that I ended up making the switch to vector-based software, but either will work just fine.
You could do one on MS Paint.
You definitely could. I mean, yeah.
It'd be a fun experience.
It would.
All right, for those on, how do you come up with picking your colors and your specific, was it P, is it? Oh, I forget the color coding names.
Hexadecimal, CMYK, RGB.
Yes, those.
So is that a question to us or is that a question to the audience? Just confirming.
That's a question for you, for our audience.
So I don't know if there really is a story associated with this. Primarily, one of the ways we do recommend going about colors is one thing we can't change is our shirt colors. So what teams can do is they can ask for the Pantone color and then derive a color code from that. So for example, our color code, the easiest to understand would be an RGB format. There are a bunch of different formats out there. Basically, it's a line of text that tells the computer what color you're referencing, and then there's also Pantone, which is a different system. So yeah, so if you ask a shirt company what color their shirts are in terms of like Pantone, you would end up getting it is a shirt color set to a standard that is basically defined by there's basically a large book. It's called a Pantone book. And they basically have a bunch of samples. They hold the sample up to the shirt and see if it matches.
Yeah, that's important. You don't want two slightly different shades of orange when you go from one shirt producer to the next. Also, I don't know if that question was just about the technical side, but when you're actually creating the colors of your design, like for example, we have a pig. It's like a primary feature, but you don't see any pink on the shirt because pink on pink would not work. At the very most, you would be able to have pink trim, but that's about it.
So for reasons why we have orange and green is they're both based on the communities or the community Explain Bacon is from. So we've had these same colors, I think, from the beginning or very close to the beginning. So orange is representative of the county within Florida we're in, which is Orange County. And then green is representative of 4-H, which is our parent organization. Yeah, so Crystal Mart said, I've used colors.co to generate color options, and includes those CMYK, RGB, and hexadecimal formats. Yeah, that's definitely an option. It's probably a good option, especially for teams that are going mostly digital. And for many teams, it doesn't matter all that much if the colors are extremely specific. I know for us, we've had plenty of dilemmas regarding what color certain things are. Like we got jackets a couple of years ago, and it's really easy to find them in safety orange, which is way too bright. So we had to do a lot of searching for something that was muted down enough to match our standards.
I also know this year, and well, this last year type thing. So we order team hats each year for each people, and they came in slightly darker orange. So the whole debate was, do we like order? We ended up ordering new ones to keep the identity the same, but stuff like that, the small little details do end up making a difference.
I have another question. You guys mentioned some swag items to like hand out to other teams. What are some examples that you recommend that are kind of easy? And then do you guys have any ideas for doing that virtually?
So at least for physically, as you can see, one of our big items that teams like is our squeezy pigs, which is on the screen right now. They're really fun. I know a lot of the members on Bacon have them, and everyone looks forward to seeing them because they're to seeing them because they're just squishy pigs that are yeah, Math is going to get his. Another thing, like we said in the presentation, buttons are a really good thing because they're super cheap to make. At Bacon, we have a button press, which manual button press, and during the like summer break and stuff, we just spend a bunch of time doing the buttons, and sometimes it's fun to see like how fast we can do it. So like all this stuff can really help out your team's image, and you can do it in a fun way that students like.
We have the buttons, and we also have some little custom rocket-shaped pins. Are you holding? Yeah, Matthew's holding one of those, which is just a bunch of foam pieces on not exactly a safety pin, but a pin that you can just order in bulk somewhere, and a bunch of little foam pieces that are cut out. So you can really make little unique handout items out of, like, it could be a really fun craft for your team to brainstorm what little fun crafty handouts you can make. I'm sure your team would have a lot of fun with that. For online, we were actually considering recently, because during competitions we have little awards we give out to teams who we think deserve them and who are very helpful. Just that we do. and we were considering doing online awards, like calling out certain teams in social media posts to say, you've gotten this award for being super nice on social media this season, or for putting on this epic FLL presentation.
So for in person, Miss Karen just said temporary tattoos, wristbands, pencils, pins, buttons, stickers are good. The only two things is I don't know if the stickers and tattoos are allowed at events. But other than that, the pencils and wristbands and pins again are really good ideas.
So in terms of fully virtual, I'm just like going through different things in my head. Like there has to, I think, and I'm probably gonna need other opinions on this. My gut says shipping things to judges and other teams is probably a bit too far. So physically making them, shipping them is probably not the way to go. But there has to be some sort of digital way to send a team something and still keep it meaningful.
I bet if you have a kid who's an artist on your team, they could dedicate fun artworks to other teams and you can post that on social media.
That's an option, yeah.
Yeah, I like those ideas because if a team does want to send it to another team, I mean, they're more than welcome to send it to us as partners and we can relay it to fellow teams. For instance, if they're not on social media, we can be that the go-between or at least connection point to provide that exchange because that's pretty cool.
Thinking about that virtually, maybe doing a small thank you clip for the judges and volunteers.
Yeah, that's probably that's a very manageable thing that would definitely make an impact on all the judges and volunteers. So that gets my vote.
I'll vote for that too.
Yeah.
I just want to say, although FRC, we do have some different kinds of competitions and some of our reasons for our imagery may be a little bit different. We are trying to attract other teams to pick us to play games with them. First Lego League teams, though, want to be noticeable and recognizable to the judges. Your judges often see a lot of different teams and it's hard for them to remember, oh, what was that one team that had that really great idea or did this with the robot? And your colors, your image, your logos, your cheers that you do are the things that make you recognizable to the judges and make them remember who you are. And so whether it's an online competition or an in-person, that's going to make them remember you, whether they saw you again in your pit or they saw you in the judge's room. And so it's really not that much different from what we do in FRC.
Yeah, so a potential option to differentiate yourself is like at a FRC competition, you'll have, I mean, there's not going to be, in a lot of cases, only one team that has red, only one team that has blue, only one team that has orange. So another way is not necessarily the shirt color, but the style of shirt. Like we have these 3/4 baseball tees. There's another team that I know of that named Hazmat Robotics. They're a FIRST Tech Challenge team. And they have, I mean, they wear pajamas to competitions and like things like that. Somehow, because a judge is going to remember the team with the pajamas better than one of the two teams with the purple shirt.
Another thing that you can do is, I know not when I was on the team for FLL, but I think it was like 2 years before, the team had some extra time because they finished what they were planning to do for those events. So they ended up making a cardboard dragon with a little like tube that was flexible in the middle, and they brought it around to events, and everyone, but they made it pretty far that year. And by the time that they made it, I think they made it to Worlds. By the time they made it to Worlds, the word kind of got around that, oh, this FLL team has this cool dragon that they walk around with. So little stuff like that not only makes the judges remember you, but makes the other teams excited to see you, and then you can talk to them and learn more stuff. So it's definitely.
Yeah, I agree. Although it doesn't have to be as dramatic as a dragon. I was volunteering at an FLL tournament last year, and there was a team who had a steampunk theme, and they, on their little collars, they had Lego gears, and they had hats with little gears glued onto it. And so the steampunk team, like, you know what team that is. Even if you don't remember their name, they're very easily recognizable with the little gear hats walking around. You don't mistake them for another team ever.
Like that has all my questions. I don't know if anyone else has any other questions. You can feel free to unmute yourself and ask, or throw it in the chat. Joyce, I don't know if you had any other questions too.
Not that I can think of right away, but I can tell you I am pictured in their actual presentation.
Shout out to Joyce.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. There's a lot of exploding bacon history in this presentation, even with all the updated photos. Like that Easy Pig one, I could tell from the background, that was a 2009 robot.
Oh, speaking of historical, or keeping historical records of your team, what are some recommendations you guys have for logging pictures and what projects maybe the team did, or your robots, so that you can keep that documented and show it on social media, put it in presentations?
So for the robot, at least, I know, first off, we definitely, so for FRC teams, we keep the CAD of the robot each year. We have it saved online so we can always go back to it, and we're like, oh, that was a cool part from last year, but the person who designed that is now in college, so let's go back and see how they did that. And then also something fun is in our build space, on the front door, there's a bunch of pictures of all our robots. I'm pretty sure since the beginning, if not really close to it. And there's a little like 1 to 2 paragraphs about what it accomplished that year, what we as a team accomplished that year, cool things that happened, struggles that we overcame, just general stuff. So me, who joined the team last year, can easily figure out what we did on the first year of the team, and future students can do that too.
And as for your projects, we have a team email, so that way we can have a team Google Drive. So any online materials we put in the team Google Drive, and it's important that it doesn't the Google Drive doesn't belong to a mentor or parent, because you don't know if that person will always be with the team. It's better to have that place in that information in a place where everyone can access it. So we share that team Google Drive with every single student, mentor, some of the parents that help out. They all have access to it. There are many folders full of team history and team presentations. This presentation is in the Big Bacon Theory of Image and Marketing folder on the team Google Drive. We have lots of pictures on there. We have our judges packet, so we do have some robot design stuff. If you have any physical information, like things that you've written down, you can keep those in neat little folders, or whatever organization method you like best.
Yeah, so from the perspective of keeping photos and keeping other information, our approach has really evolved and really actively continues to evolve. There's been a lot of changes or updates even within the scope of COVID. So one of the things that's existed for as long as the team has really is this forum that we use for some communication. We don't use it nearly as much as we did before, but there is so much team history on this forum. It looks like I'm having bit of a Zoom issue here. Okay, there we go. Are you guys able to see the entire screen?
Yep.
Yeah, so we have updates here, and I can probably go back to 2010 and just see stuff that we did. So I think we opened the Slack account in 2016 or 2017, maybe even sooner. But before we opened the Slack server that we're operating on now, we used this alongside Facebook. Nowadays, we use this for stuff that absolutely needs to be like official record keeping. So we have officer nominations. For example, this post, we have meeting minutes as well, so we can access those later. And then we also have, I believe this only goes down to, okay, there's a spreadsheet somewhere that has, I believe 2017, 2018, 2019, 2020's Google Photos albums on them. So yes, so we keep records of our photos through that, though that is a relatively new thing because we don't have very old photos really before the photos tend to travel, with the exception of that spreadsheet, with our mentors. If a mentor from 2010 was taking photos, and they left in 2012, they're probably, those photos are probably lost. So that is something we've been working on. And then in terms of our mechanical sub-team, our mechanical sub-team has been focusing more on documenting how we've been building our robot over the season. So this is the big thing that happened during COVID, is we've been working on a wiki where we have started posting a build blog. So what FLL teams can do with this is they can use a wiki format like this to document different things about their build process, the issues they run into, and then future students can look back on it. For example, this, discussing a FRC style shooter and a training exercise for interested students. So yeah, that kind of thing has been really helpful for us. And this kind of recent update is going to really help position us for the future.
Another thing that we do on the robot side again, this is definitely aimed more towards FRC and FTC teams. But for the robot side, since we can't everything, and especially this year, I don't know how many teams use this. Matthew, you can chip in, but we use this thing called GrabCAD. Do a lot of teams use that?
Yes, a lot of teams do use that.
But yeah, basically it's this, you probably know, but it's basically Google Drive for CAD. So you can upload it and other people can download it from anywhere, edit it, save changes. Yeah.
So I don't know how much the teachers or participants on this presentation know about CAD. So to make it a little bit more understandable, basically, if anyone's seen Tinkercad before, that is an example of a computer-aided design software. We use more advanced computer-aided design software that's more in line with what professional engineers use in their daily line of work. And those softwares work offline, and they work in files that are stored on computers. So instead of being uploaded to the cloud or automatically saving, we have to do our own file management with all of it, which can become very, very complex very fast. For example, before we started using GrabCAD, we were using a different Google Drive-ish service that wasn't quite Google Drive, is still more suited. Before that, we were storing CAD files on the driver stations of the robots that were using the associated robots. So our 2013 robot, for example, has a dedicated driver station, and that laptop has that robot's CAD on it.
Just to go back to a little simpler topic, I wanted to chip in something really quickly about, Matthew was talking about our forum. You don't have to have something as fancy as a forum, but you do want to have somewhere permanent to save your more official information, because while our Exploding Bacon's main platform of communication is Slack, it's a messaging app for organizations. But the thing is, messages are deleted after a certain number of new messages have been typed in. So if you're using any sort of communication system, you want to check that and make sure you don't rely on your communication systems to save all of your information. If it's really important, put it somewhere like a forum or a drive or just a USB.
I think a way to go that would probably be more suited for FLL teams is, as just said, using a Google Drive or whatever school equivalent, because a lot of schools nowadays have access to either Google Drive services or Microsoft OneDrive services. So just create a folder for the year and add subtopics, and that way, when you're done, either the coach has permanent access to those files or everybody on the team has permanent access, and you guys can just look through whatever you guys need. And then photos wise, just have some sort of place between each of those years where you add a link to either the source of those folders within the storage platform or to a Google Photos folder.
Miss Doyle just said in chat, an example of something you would want to save to your Google Drive is keep copies of your robot programs, which I think is a really excellent idea, because if your robot program gets deleted, you're done for, right? And also, maybe you can keep different iterations of your robot program. So if something doesn't work, you can go back and see maybe where an error was made, or you can build off of your old ideas to create something new.
Yeah, version control. And this is keeping in mind, I was like very beginning to middle of the EV3 era, is like version control is not super existent in the EV3 ecosystem. So I specifically remember before competitions with my coach being like, okay, we need to keep a backup of the code. Here's the flash drive.
Yeah.
So we keep it on a backup flash drive. And just stuff like that is extremely important, because if something happens and your code gets erased, especially when it's close to competition, that could be a catastrophe.
I did want to mention too, off of the wiki and the blog that you mentioned. So one of our coaches on here, Apeksha, her daughter Ishika has been working with Lego Digital Designer and Bricklink Studio for us. So along the lines of Tinkercad, you know, they're creating files of their digital attachments or robot with attachment and how it moves. And so I thought that was a great idea for them to also document how they're using those Lego digital designers for that purpose. So, but Tinkercad is also being used by our teams too. So I think that was really cool to see.
And going
really,
back
really
to
awesome.
the emails, so something that I did when I became club lead for Exploding Bacon a while ago, I made baconclublead@gmail.com. So that way, when I left, I was able to turn that over, and it wasn't my personal email, and it was theme related to the next lead in charge. So they had everything that I've worked on, Google Drive and all. So that is a good thing to do if you're, know that you're going to have to progressively change leadership.
Yes, for sure. Miss Doyle also just said in chat, another great use of the Google Drive is any project information or handouts at competition. If you forget that or your copies get ruined, if it's on the Google Drive, you can sign into Google Drive on any computer and print out a new one, or run to a copy store to get that if you have last minute problems with your handouts.
So with the Google Drive, something that I did a while back when I was on my FLO team is, I was going to share my screen, but we had a shared Google Drive. So yeah.
Yeah, so along with all that, this is just sort of turning into a general stuff FLO coaches and teams need to remember to do or would benefit from doing. And like, I can't stress enough, within the FRC scope, I've come to understand there's sort of a dividing line. There are a lot of teams in the community that aren't connected to each other in any way. Like, there isn't communication with other teams, but the teams that are really the most successful teams in a lot of circumstances are the ones who are connected with the rest of the community. And from what I have seen, the way to do that is for coaches to get involved and to be in active discussions with other coaches. So I definitely recommend joining the FLL Learn and Share Facebook. Share and Learn Facebook.
Yep, that one. And we have we have a Northeast and Central Florida one too. So I always recommend both of them, since Share and Learn is a lot more active, but then you've got the region specific. So most definitely. Well, if anyone has any other questions, speak now or forever hold your peace.
I'm going to go ahead and flip back to the last slide of the presentation.
Yeah.
Yes, survey.
Yeah.
And thank you guys so much for presenting for us. Like I said, it is recorded and we'll have it on our website and our YouTube channel. And I'll be sharing out the recording. So if anyone has any other questions, you guys know where to contact Exploding Bacon. And then if you guys have questions for me, for First Lego League specifically, just, let me know. And thanks everyone. Have a good rest of the evening.